do the last 10 in unison?
No vote?
I'm sorry. There's no. Oh, no vote on the recusal.
Okay.
I'd like to call the December 10th, 2020 meeting of the City of Norman Planning Commission to order. Renee, may we please have a roll call?
Mr. Daniels, Ms. Williford, Mr. John,
Here.
Mr. Knotts,
Here.
Ms. Zink,
Present.
Ms. Byrd,
Here.
Mr. Beck, Ms. Bahan,
Here.
Mr. McDaniel.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we jump into the consent items, I'd like to ask the commissioners to please speak into your microphone so that we can hear despite the masks. And also that the voting will be done orally. Renee's going to call the vote, so instead of using our screens to vote, that's how we'll proceed. For item number 2, TMP-159, approval of the November 12th, 2020 Planning Commission regular session minutes. Item number 3, COS 2021-4, consideration of a Norman Rural Certificate of Survey, for which we have a request for postponement to the January 14th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. And item number 4, PP 2021-4, consideration of a preliminary plat, for which we also have a request to postpone to the January 14th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Do any of the commissioners wish to remove any of these items from the consent docket? Okay, no. Does anyone in the audience wish to remove any of these items from the consent docket? Okay, no. May I have a vote? A motion. I'm out of practice.
So move.
Second. Bird.
Zoom. Mr. John,
Yes.
Mr. Knotts,
Yes.
Ms. Zink,
Yes.
Ms. Byrd,
Yes.
Ms. Bahan,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
The motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. Moving right along, we have item number 5, O-2021-23. Wishneck Investments LLC requests rezoning from CCFBC Urban Storefront to CCPUD for .16 acres of property located at the northeast corner of West Main Street and North Webster Avenue, 231 West Main Street. Do I have a comment from Commissioner Byrd?
Yes, being an adjacent property owner, I perceived a potential conflict, and I am recusing myself from voting on this item.
Thank you. Do we have a staff presentation?
Yes, we do. Good evening. I am on East Star, and it's going to take a little getting used to here. Hold on. And I'm a planner here with the City of Norman, and this is the opposite of what I think, so, got it right. All right, good evening. This is a request by Wishneck Investments LLC for rezoning from urban storefront and urban general center city form-based code frontages to a center city planned unit development. Here is the existing zoning for the subject tract, which is center city form-based code, and then to the east of it is a CCPUD, and to the north and south and west is center city form-based code. And here is the actual center city form-based code frontage map that shows the urban storefront that's along Main Street and then down Webster. And in the orange is the urban general section that goes on the back part of the, along the back part of the property there. And then this is the existing land use, and it shows that this property still has a red brick building there on the corner. The rest of the track, several years ago, the dilapidated former lumberyard building was demolished. And to the east, as I mentioned, is a commercial development, and across the street as well. And then there's a vacant commercial building to the west, and to the north there's another commercial establishments. Oops, hold on. Went a little fast. Here's an aerial photograph of the subject tract that shows the old lumberyard building before it got torn down. And you can still see the red brick building roof there. You can see that. This is 1.16 acres, more or less, and it is a 50 by 140 tract here in the corner of Main and Webster. And I am clicking too much, sorry. Here's a front view of the property showing that building, the little red brick building. Oops, sorry. This is looking from the west towards the building. And this is looking east towards Main Street. The building's facing Main Street. And south is the large AT&T building there. And then on the southwest corner, that commercial building there, and then the one to the west. Oops, hold on. And then to the north, looking back north down Webster Avenue towards those businesses and the street view there. And then let me see. Oops, sorry, I can't get this right. The applicant is requesting to rezone this property from Center City form-based code to a CCPUD in order to redevelop this property for a variety of mixed uses, including commercial, retail, civic, professional, and potentially residential in the upper stories. The adoption of the Center City form-based code, during the adoption of the Center City form-based code, there became apparent there needed to be a way to allow developers to request developments that didn't meet the requirements of the Center City form-based code, so they developed the CCPUD to allow for variances. So this applicant is requesting the following goals to meet his goal of mixed uses. The additional 3 foot, 3 inch setback from the required build line on Webster. The reduction of a build to line from 100% to 80% on Main Street. An exemption from the street wall requirements. An exemption from the required 2-story minimum that is required. And the elimination of the retail storefront requirement on the ground floor. Exemption of the requirement for the second floor restaurant and retail spaces to be an extension of the ground floor use. An allowance of office in the first floor within the first 20 foot of the required build line. Exemption from the landscape requirement. And exemption from the 15% open space requirement. And exemption from the building height. And then finally, an allowance for a 300 square foot wall sign and a 300 square foot roof sign. And so the applicant is here this evening with a presentation, and he can discuss those variances requests more. And with that, staff, I think I have another picture I forgot. Hold on. No, I didn't. Whoop, I did forget a few. I know, I'm sorry. Hold on. I think am I going the wrong way? I am going the wrong way. Am I? Yes, I am, sorry. I'll get it right yet. I did steal your thunder, sorry. I'm like, there we go. That was my last picture. And so with that, Staff forwards this request for consideration by the commission and recommendation to the city council. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but as I said, the applicant's here as well if you have additional questions.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, may we have the applicant presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Just makes my dyslexia worse, so you forward with the
I
left.
gotcha. They do point opposite ways. There you go. Perfect. Let me know if you can't hear me at any time, getting back in person, but I'm Gunnar Joyce, attorney for the applicant with Rieger Law Group, and Joey Wishnuck here with us as part of the applicant team as well. And so I will get started. Anis basically covered a lot of the logistics here, but I'll go through it again really quick. This is the site we're talking about. It's on the corner of Webster Avenue and Main Street. Just like she said, we're talking about 0.16 acres in a downtown lot. Here is, like she said, the existing aerial. This is the dilapidated building that is no longer there. It was taken down in 2019. Here again is a 1997 picture from the city's GIS map that shows the building and also the existing that's still there, red brick building that will remain. Important to note here that this site has sat vacant for many, many years and also has been on the market for a while with no activity. And so we're really excited to present this project tonight to show some movement in this area and this exciting potential development. So here's the street view from the intersection. Again, this really focuses on that existing building, which will get a facelift and kind of some, remodeling to make it look pretty and architecturally, an architectural element of the site. Really excited about the potential development here. In the PUD, we talk about some of the uses that could be confined to this specific building. We want to be really flexible. It's kind of the overarching theme here is flexibility and walkability, but we go into specifics into the PUD that talking about this can be a standalone use such as a coffee shop, a serving window, a snow cone stand, or also additional seating, additional function space of some of the other uses on the site. So really excited at what that could be used for. Here's kind of the legalities of this. The 2025 designation, the plan for this site is commercial. No request needed for this project. The zoning, like we've already discussed and Anis pointed out, is in the Center City Form-Based Code, right next to a CCPUD of Dr. Bird's office. An interesting nuance here is that this actually falls within two separate categories of the Form-Based Code. So another advantage of this Center City PUD is that it'll bring the entire site into one set of rules for the development of this property as it goes forward. Here's the site plan shown. Just a couple quick notes about this project before we really show you specifics and elevations. The goal here is to preserve that unique existing structure, but also to create a really active and pedestrian-friendly development. So a lot of the variances that we'll talk about here go to achieving that goal of making this a walkable and active center right on a main intersection as you head into downtown. And really we envision this site as being a gateway into the new revitalized downtown Norman. So really excited about having this project developed and be a new entryway into that part of the city. Again, active open space. Part of that is a rooftop patio space that we'll discuss in some of these renderings, but it's going right up here. And in phase one of the development, the whole project's being built as a roof deck so that it could be an active space up here, open space. Flexibility is another general theme in the uses. In today's environment and the way COVID has impacted retail, we really want to focus on allowing uses that can be flexible over time, such as office space. The whole building is really designed to be flexible. As you can see, this is a floor layout that shows multiple tenant spaces, but has the flexibility to be maybe 2 or 3, maybe 5 or 6, just depending on how it develops and the tenant mix that occurs over time. really the intent and the goal here is for this to be possibly incubator space, local entrepreneurial space right here. So we're really focused on flexibility on the end users. Also allowance for the second story, which we'll show you in a second, for residential uses, a maximum of 8 units per floor. And really, again, excited about the potential to have those residential units in this part of the city. Finally, this is worth noting too, the initial story, the first phase is the first story, but the initial story is going to be constructed with floor joist instead of roof joist. So what that means is it'll be easy to expand into the second story because the building is already structurally made to support 2 stories from the jump. So it is a request that the first phase be allowed to be single story, but with a clear intention that it will be second story as the property develops. Here I'm going to discuss real quickly about one of the major variances here. It's a request to change the required build line. In the Center City Form-Based Code, there's a required build line on the property. Let me see if I can go back real quick. This line right here is the existing required build line. So you have to build right up to the property line. The red line is what we're proposing. It allows an additional open space and setbacks so that we're not built right on top of the sidewalk. So again, as you can see, this is where the existing required build line would be. You'd be right on top of the sidewalk that's only 3 feet. So we've requested an additional setback to give us 6.5 feet of space to really achieve that desired walkability, pedestrian-friendly development here. This is an old picture that shows that dilapidated structure. And as you can see, this is a very tight squeeze with that small sidewalk. So that's the reason for the change to the required build line. Here's some of the elevations. This is phase 1 from WEBSTER, looking at the phase 1 of the building. As you can see, here is the tenant space. Again, with that expanded open space and pushback build line, we anticipate this being a pedestrian-friendly area with potentially, outdoor seating if a restaurant or coffee shop comes in there, and really just a place that is friendly and inviting to the community. And again, this open space up here, as you can see, this is going to be a roof deck that when we go to the renderings, you can see some people up there just being able to use this space for all the tenants and really the community. That's another variance that's requested here tonight because the second floor space under the Center City Form-Based Code is required to be tied to one of the ground floor uses. So we're requesting here to have that open space be kind of a free-flowing use that doesn't have to be tied to a specific tenant on the first floor. It's another variance that's requested here. Here's phase 2 from WEBSTER. This shows the build out of the second story, and as you can see, retains that open space up above that existing building, and then a little bit to the east when you see from this side right here. This is a portion of the new building that's being proposed. It wraps around this existing red building. So again, back from WEBSTER, you see we build up. We have a walkway up to the second floor. And then as you get to Main Street right here, this is phase 1, looking from Main Street at the building. You can see the wraparound. You can see the existing structure still remaining. And then the open space and steps moving up. This is phase 2, which shows the build out. And then again, retaining that open space for the site. I want to point out a similar feel in the area. One of the variances here is allowing it to be phase 1 as a single story. And the goal and the intent here is that this property can grow with downtown and grow with the properties around it. So really as the market and the tenant space increases downtown, we'll expand into the second story. And while it's in a single story, it really complies and fits well with the environment that's downtown. Here you go again. You can see the existing red building over here off of Main Street, and you can see how it fits collectively and cohesively with the single stories that are there in the area. So here's some exterior renderings, this shows the first floor, the first story, phase 1, with phase 2 kind of faded in. It'll be built out over time. And again, as you can see, pedestrian friendly is really the goal here. Walkability off of Webster, walkability off of Main, and then up there, an open space that the pedestrians can really use and enjoy. Here it is again off of Webster. As you can see, utilizing the pushback required build line exemption for kind of an open space, open seating area. And then again, from Main Street, phase 1, again, no building up here. This is what it would look like in the first phase of development. So here is the list of the requested variances that Anish just walked through, and really they all fit into 4 categories. Really the goal here is flexible tenant mix, a request for signage allowance, achieving a walkable, pedestrian-oriented development, and then finally, the height and phasing allowance that we discussed. And so as we go through here, the open space and walkability variances are 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9. And the reason there's so many of these is, it might look like a long list, but really we're dealing with the Center City Form-Based Code. That's a 92-page document that's extremely detailed. And so in order to achieve our desired development and achieve that pedestrian-friendly walkability environment, we kind of went through with a fine-tooth comb and really made sure we got the requested variances that were needed here. So as we walk through these, here's the requested setback that we discussed off of Webster. The reduction from 100% to 80% of the build line on Main Street is to keep, 1, the existing building, and then 2, also not required to build out fully on Main Street so that we can have the walkway going up, but also kind of an open air feel. A lot of those walkability variances that I talked about are to achieve that open air, open environment, walkable environment. The plain reading of the form-based code requires street walls and any gaps that don't meet up to the requirement on Main Street and Webster. We'd like to do away with that requirement, so again, we can have this open air, this walkable environment. Number 4 and number 10 are identical. It's an exemption from the 2-story requirement. Like we've talked about, the intent here is a single-story first phase built with the floor joist to support a second story, and then a second story that comes along later with allowances for residential uses. 5, 6, and 7 are all about tenant mix. Again, like I mentioned, we don't really know the impact on the retail uses that COVID could have and in the future. So we've requested variances from requirements that require retail uses. We've requested a variance that requires second floor retail or second floor restaurant be tied to a ground floor identical tenant use. This, you can see this play out in Chisholm Creek in Oklahoma City. If you've been there, it's a 2-story structure that has separate retail, separate restaurants on the second story that are not tied to the first. We'd want similar flexibility here. There's actually an escape room there that is solely on the second floor. So that's something that wouldn't be allowed under the Center City Form-Based Code, would be allowed under our PUD. Again, finally here, 7, again about tenant mix. We've requested an allowance of office uses within the first 20 feet of the required build line. That kind of, again, goes to show how specific this form-based document is. And we'd like that variance to be able to have some of those entrepreneurial offices, the incubator space, and any of those tenant spaces that are shown. 8 and 9 are, again, to achieve that walkable, pedestrian-friendly environment. We've asked for an exemption from the landscape requirement because there's not enough space on the Webster frontage to put in any street trees. Again, it's only a 3-foot sidewalk, and Main Street already has a planter right in front of the site from a recent revitalization. So we believe that in order to keep this an open and really walkable intersection right there on the hard corner, that it's best to ask for a variance from those requirements. And then the open space, this is kind of a nuanced discussion here, but let me click back into the site plan. There's a requirement in the Center City Form-Based Code that open space on the ground floor must be located behind the parking setback line. So this pink line over here is the parking setback line on this site. And so under the plain reading of the form-based code, if we were going to have open space on the ground, on the ground floor, on the base level here of the site, it'd have to fit in this tight gap. And again, our goal here is to have that pedestrian walkable environment both on Webb Street and Main. So we've asked to get an exemption from that requirement and put our open space for the ground floor right here on Webster and Main. That accounts for about 10% of the site as open space. And we're also showing, again, like we've shown already, the rooftop deck as an open space, which currently shows the site at 40% open space. And so we're requesting a variance, again, mainly because of the location there, but we're showing on the site plan up to 40% of the site is open space. 10, we've talked about, and 11 and 12, additional signage allowances. Really what sparks this request is that there's already pretty iconic signage in this area. Dr. Bird's site has that beautiful mural sign. So the intent here is kind of to match that and keep that iconic signage in the area and really become a gateway and an entry into the revitalized downtown Norman area. So the applicant's still working on potential designs, but is really hoping to have a really exciting rooftop sign that kind of fits with what's already going on there. So here's a quick summary just to wrap up. Again, the exterior renderings and really why we're here tonight is because the plain reading of the form-based code just wouldn't allow this type of pedestrian-friendly, walkable environment here. And so the request and all the variances are to achieve that desired goal. Again, we're asking for a setback from the required build line on Webster, variances that will allow us to keep that existing structure, and variances that will allow this to, again, be walkable in a very pedestrian-oriented environment at this key intersection. I'd like to point out that we're not aware of any protests. No neighbors have attended the pre-development meeting we had for this item. And with that, very happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
Yes. Yes, real quick, could you go back to the, that shot right there?
Yeah.
It shows there is a structure on the second floor. Can you explain or give more detail on that?
Yeah, so the initial phase right here, that structure is just to serve as an outdoor patio space. It's not going to be occupiable space in the first phase. The second phase, which is shown up here, that's when it's actually built out and becomes usable, occupiable space.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Knotts?
So it doesn't look very handicap-friendly to get to your second floor, and also, to get to the open area. And why, if you're only planning ultimately to be 2 floors, why are you asking for 6?
So first on the floor question, the allowance for this site is an unlimited height today under the form-based code. So what we've requested is to retain the second highest allowance under this category, the form-based code, which is six stories or 85 feet. We've asked to comply with that. You're correct that we've only shown 2 stories here, but as the market develops around here and as other buildings develop around here, we wouldn't want to give up an allowance that's already retained on this property. And so we'd like to retain the ability to go up to 6 feet if possible. We would have to show, obviously, that site plan and go through the city process for that. But again, the allowance is already there. One today for maximum, no limit. And so we've just requested that 6 stories, which is consistent with the zoning around this area.
Well, with open stairs, you're inviting people at all hours to access your roof. Do you have any solution for that, or?
It's something that, we would comply with all of the requirements of the form-based code. We haven't asked for any variances that talk about any kind of lighting or security or even the steps going up. And so we would just comply with, everything that would be applicable to any other properties in this area. They'd have, lights, probably security systems out there. That'd be kind of an end-user tenant question more than, developer.
Are you familiar with the term attractive nuisance?
I am. I really don't think this type of development and the funds that are going into this proposed development would really be attractive to that kind of nuisance I think you're referring to.
Okay, I don't agree, but
Understood.
this is America.
Do we have any other questions of the applicant from commissioners?
Yes, I have one more. Talk to me a little bit about the signage, the variance that you're wanting to put in place.
Yes,
That's a
signage
question.
allowances in the form-based code have been relatively small. That's something that we've seen a lot in the surrounding areas, that people have needed variances for signage. We'd like to address it up front and just ask for allowances to have the type of signage that is on Dr. Gabriel's building, but also the signage that can advertise the site and then also the tenant mix.
Can I ask where, obviously seeing what is on the Good Doctor's building, where do you intend to place this signage?
The final location hasn't been determined yet, but I think we're in talks of potentially being somewhere right up here that can still be seen from the intersection. But obviously, the goal would obviously not put it right in front of the mural and block the visibility of that.
Okay, so that would not be on the building itself, it would be on a structure placed on top of the building?
Yeah, so there's two allowances requested. One is a wall sign, so that would be physically on the building, let's say like right here. Final locations, haven't been determined here, but maybe on this existing building, right here is a wall sign out, maybe on a wall as a wall sign out. And then the second request is for a roof sign, kind of a scaffolding sign. And we're anticipating that being on top of the roof, very similar to something you'd see in Automobile Alley in Oklahoma City, like the Buick sign. That's kind of the idea here. So the roof sign, the scaffolding sign would be on top of the roof of the building. The wall sign would be up against the wall, the exterior of the building. That is, those requests are in addition to regular tenant signage. So it's anticipated that the tenants of one space would have their logo or something right above, maybe where it says 101, right up here. So we're talking, those two requests are really for development signage to advertise the building as a whole, to call it, I believe, and Joe, you might know better, but I believe it's be the J.R. Ford building is kind of preliminary talk, so a signage that says something along those lines, Ford building, J.R. Ford building. That's the request for those two.
And how much does that deviate from not only the center city, but also the current sign, Norman signage?
I'm sorry, I don't know from the current signage. I know there's just, there isn't an allowance for a scaffolding sign in Center City.
Okay.
Right, there's allowance for blade signs that stick out, and, we really Joey likes the idea of that scaffolding sign, and so that's a request here.
Okay, so because The only reason why I'm asking is, when this request came forward, I went through the minutes of the Center City group. I read, I think, all of them that were posted. And that was one of the things that they talked about is signage and having those strict limitations on signage. And so I'm just trying to understand what we're talking about here and how much does that deviate from, I guess, what those 15 individuals were trying to put in place in the Center City. So I appreciate that information.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
I have a question.
Commissioner
You
Boeheim?
didn't really address Mr. Knotz's question about accessibility and what the provisions are for accessibility, particularly to the second floor.
Yeah, there's been no request for any variance of any accessibility requirements on the site. That's something that would be more fleshed out at building permit stage when they actually come with the final construction drawings. And there would be full city staff review at building permit stage. I apologize. I did forget to answer that.
Do we have any other questions from the commissioners? Thank you. Do we have any audience comments? Seeing none, do we have any planning commission discussion?
I think I'd like to ask the city, someone from the city, to give us some information regarding the signage, because that's one of the things I'm really concerned about when we start talking about a sign that's unlike anything that we have downtown. I wanted to understand what the individuals in those 15 individuals were talking about when they helped draft this document.
Jane Hudson, Planning Department. I apologize, I did not bring the sign code with me, so I can't go through that with you as far as like what the C3 zoning would allow in the downtown area. I can go over with you. I mean, I know you went over the minutes and everything, but as far as the general standards for signage within the Center City form-based code area, I mean, they've got the wall signs, are permitted within an area between the second story floor line and the first floor, and those are not to exceed 2 feet in height, as well as in no case shall this band be higher than 20 feet or lower than 11 feet above the sidewalk. I'm sorry, these things are just really hard to breathe in, so I apologize. The letters shall not exceed 18 inches in height or width, and the signs shall not come closer than 2 feet to the adjacent common lot line. As far as additional square footage, a plaque, you can have a plaque, but it shall be no larger than a rectangle of 18 square feet. Then the blade signs that I believe that they mentioned, not more than 5 feet wide, containing a maximum of 25 square feet per side, and minimum 9 feet clear height above the sidewalk, may be hung from the facade.
So what you're saying is that scaffolding sign would be a fairly large deviation from what we currently have.
Yes, I believe it would be.
Okay.
Thank you, Jane. Do we have any other questions from the commissioners or discussion? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. That was a motion from Commissioner McDaniel and a second from Commissioner Jan. May we have a vote?
Mr. John?
Yes.
Mr. Knotts?
No.
Ms. Zink?
Yes.
Ms. Boeheim?
No.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
The motion carried 3-2.
Thank you. We have item number 6, and before we proceed, we're going to give a moment for Commissioner Byrd to come back.
Thank you.
Item number 60-2021-24, Johnson and Associates on behalf of Board of Regents of University of Oklahoma requests closure of 2 public alleys, as well as an existing utility easement located in Block 1 of East University Addition, east of Jenkins Avenue, between University Place and Page Street. Do we have a staff presentation?
Good evening. University of Oklahoma has requested the closure of 2 rights-of-way, which were used as alleys and utilities. They also are requesting release or closure of 5 easements. Since there are no structures on the property, staff can support this request.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from commissioners for staff? Seeing none, do we have any discussion from commissioners? Or any audience comments? Oh, I'm sorry, does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening, Mark Zitzow with Johnson and Associates. We don't. We're here and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any audience comments? Seeing none, do we have any commissioner discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Thank you. That was a motion from Commissioner Byrd and a second from Commissioner Bohan, and a vote.
Mr. John?
Yes.
Mr. Knotts?
Yes.
Ms. Zink?
Yes.
Ms. Byrd?
Yes.
Ms. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
The motion carried 6-0.
Item number 70-2021-22, Nate Nieto, on behalf of John Traw, requests amendment of the existing PUD 0-9798-28 to allow for C2 uses, medical marijuana dispensary, medical marijuana education facility, and Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 medical marijuana processing for property located at 1315 24th Avenue Southwest. And may we have the staff presentation?
Good evening, Commissioners. Janae Greenlee with the Planning Department. Mr. Nate Nito, on behalf of John Traw, the owner, is requesting amendment of the approved uses and the planned unit development established by ordinance O-9798-28 at 1315 24th Avenue Southwest. This is the subject tract, the existing PUD I just spoke of. On this tract, there are currently 5 existing structures. The background in the staff report explained that this was preliminary platted, never final platted. These structures have been there for many years. That being said, because it's never final platted, these structures cannot be removed. If they're removed, they can't be rebuilt. Only interior remodels can be approved at this time for this whole site, for each one of these buildings. Just an aerial. So in your packet, we labeled these buildings. Each one of these buildings has a label. This is A, B, C, D, and E. C is the building that we're talking about that is going to have these additional medical marijuana Tier 3 processing, education facility, and lab and research facility. This does go through. So this is just a few pictures of the site, building A, and then we're looking to the north on 24th, across the street to the west. This is to the south on 24th, and then just another picture here to the north where Lindsay Street is right over here. This is the structure that will have the special medical marijuana processing only allowed in this building. Staff forwards this request to the Planning Commission, ordinance number O-2021-22 for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here with a brief presentation.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions of staff?
I just have a question in general. How many facilities we have in city of Norman?
How many facilities? What kind of facilities?
The-
Processing facilities? I haven't looked at the OMMA website, and I know that we're doing tracking, the city clerk's office does. They have a list of those. I know that there are several processors, but tier 3 processing, allowing extraction, there's not a whole bunch of them. There's more of them that are the tier 1 and 2, which is the pre-rolls.
Thank you.
I will let Mr. Nate Nito come up and do his presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nate Nito. I am the tenant at 1315 24th Avenue. I'm here on behalf of my landlord, Mr. John Traw. I'd like to start with a quick background on myself, and I'll try to keep it short for you all. My father grew up here in Norman and graduated from Norman High School before attending University of Oklahoma, where he met my mom. Fast forward just a few years later, my business partner John Hill and I both graduated from Norman High as well. I moved to Colorado soon after graduating in 2007 to begin working for Frontier Drilling, a company based out of Oklahoma City. For the past several years, I've been overseeing operations for a large medical cannabis business as well as a large hemp business with a combined employee pool of over 150 employees. Our goal is to bring the proven concepts I implemented in those businesses here to our business in Oklahoma. We have succeeded at participating in a much higher regulated market, and we are excited for the opportunity to bring our industry experience in regard to quality control, product consistency, and business transparency here to our new business in Oklahoma. Our internal auditing, training, and all internal auditing and training integrated within our business model from previous projects will be brought here to our business in Oklahoma, and we are very happy to be doing business in our hometown. We plan to use many local and organic ingredients as possible in our recipe, which is an important part of our goal to align well with the local community. Our standard operating procedures follow CGMP guidelines and recommendations, and we have hazard analysis, critical control points, procedures integrated into all of our standard operating procedures. All of our kitchen equipment we have purchased for our business has been approved by the National Sanitation Foundation as well. We will be making concentrates and pre-rolls, but we are really looking forward to bringing some new options to the edibles market here in Oklahoma. That is where we really see an opportunity currently to set ourselves apart. We utilize zero chemicals, zero combustibles, or zero solvents within any of our processing methods. There will be no butane, CO2, or ethanol extraction taking place, and no plans to add these in the future. Our solventless concentrates are as well as our edibles manufacturing will require no heavy machinery to be installed to the interior or exterior of the building. No changes to the structure are being made. I appreciate your all time and the consideration, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have for me now.
Thank you. Do we have questions?
Yes, I have a real quick question about the, inside about the odor control.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about how you're going to make sure that when you're extracting or I guess you're growing too?
No cultivation.
No cultivation, just
No, sir.
extracting?
Just
Okay.
extracting. And that process does not require us to use any solvents or chemicals that give off any odors.
Okay.
And as far as the cultivation, the processing of the material, it's all frozen throughout the entire process, so no actual odors are released through that process specifically.
Okay.
That's just for our specific processes. Obviously, there are many out there that do release the odors and have chemicals, but we have excluded all of those from our processes.
Thank you. That was a question from Commissioner McDaniel. Do we have any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Knotts?
So that building, that is, of that cluster of buildings, it's, the only marijuana activities are going to be inside that building?
Yes, sir. That building C specifically.
Okay, and I drove by it, and it doesn't look that substantial.
No, it's a pretty small operation, yes, sir.
Yeah, but it looks, how can I say this, accessible by someone with intent to get inside and,
Yes, sir. So with that in mind, we have already put in place a security system that covers all entries and exits of the building, as long as the entire exterior. That looks out to the parking lot, and we are in the process of sourcing bars for those windows as well. So every entry, exit bar on those, as well as the windows.
okay.
Is the tag agency remaining, are you using all 5 buildings or just?
Just building C
just
only.
building C?
No changes to any of the other businesses surrounding us, and no visible changes to the structure itself.
Thank you. That was a question from Commissioner Byrd. Do we have any other questions from commissioners? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any audience comments? Seeing none, do we have any planning commission discussion? Thank you. Then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. That was a motion from Commissioner Byrd and a second from Commissioner McDaniel. And may we have a vote?
Mr. John?
No.
Mr. Knotts?
Yes,
Ms. Zink?
Yes.
Ms. Byrd?
Yes.
Ms. Bahan?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
The motion carried 5-1.
Thank you. Does staff have any additional information for the commission? Do any of the commissioners wish to make any comments? Then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay. See you next year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. See you next year.